It's Saturday morning cartoons. Saturday morning cartoons, which will be a selection, a banquet, if you will, of a few loose ends, including the false prophet Stonehenge Equinox, election eve geomantic oracle predictions results. Anyway, what I mean by loose ends, a couple days ago we talked about the holy hexagram and the star sapphire ritual and such, and there were people that were saying, hey, you got your zodiac backwards there. No, it's a hexagram ritual, and hexagram rituals are based on the macrocosmic thing, okay? It's the macrocosmic universe. That's why when you are learning magic, you start with a pentagram ritual, okay? And the pentagram ritual assumes, wrongly so, but for the sake of having to begin somewhere, it assumes that you're more or less standing on the flat earth, and you've got the directions around you dictated by the terrestrial winds, the air in the east, and fire in the south, and water in the west, and earth in the north. But when you're dealing with a hexagram ritual, you're moving your consciousness from a little magician standing on the face of the earth like an ant, thinking that, well, it looks like it's a flat earth. No, you're expanding your consciousness to that of centering yourself as the sun surrounded by the belt of the zodiac. And as we know, the belt of the zodiac, as we, for the purpose of rituals and stuff, belt of the zodiac goes counterclockwise, starting with Aries and stuff. So, with the macrocosmic directions of hexagram rituals, you start with fire, Aries. We use the cardinal signs of the zodiac. Fire, Aries in the east. And in the south, we've got Capricorn, because that's how it would go with a counterclockwise trip around the zodiac. Then next is Libra in the west, and Cancer in the north. Okay, so that's taking care of that question. Question number 2. I don't know how many of you tuned in the other night, but if you didn't, I sort of got up late. I didn't get up late. It was 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night. And I made a little video on election eve. And earlier in the day, I said I was going to do geomantic divinations on certain election campaigns. And I invited a few, the listeners to respond and tell me which candidates they were concerned about. Okay, so, and a few of you did. But that night, election eve, I got up and dressed all spooky and made my head look like this, okay? And I gave the results of about a half a dozen geomantic questions that I asked the Oracle of Geomancy about these specific political races. And I gave my predictions and my opinions based on those. And okay, and I showed you This one is Warnock. Will Raphael Warnock conquer his adversary Herschel Walker? And I did just a quick and dirty version of the geomantic divination, where the answer comes in the form of these geometric figures distilled down to a judge, which is created by two witnesses. So I'm not going to get into that. But my prediction for the Warnock Walker race was it won't be settled. We wouldn't find an answer right away. And as it turned out, it's gone into a runoff election that'll be held in December. So I'm saying the false prophet Stonehenge Equinox lucked out on his predictions there. Second one is not so lucky for Stonehenge Equinox. Will Stacey Abrams conquer Brian Kemp in the election? And Fortuna Minor was the answer, and it was hard. That doesn't actually mean that instantly Fortuna Major perhaps would have, but the classic answer of Fortuna Minor would be fortune smiles upon you. The whole, the whole animosity is merely passing time. Now, if I would have been, a better interpreter and a more expert geomancer, I wouldn't have called it for Stacey Abrams. But I might suggest something like, she fought a good fight, and believe it or not, the campaign and even the result of the campaign will result in good fortune smiling upon her. So perhaps she lost the governorship, but she'll be president someday or something like that. Okay, but I'm saying no, Lon didn't get it, or Stonehenge Equinox didn't get it. Okay. Here's another one that I'm counting as a failure. Will Hobbs conquer Kari Lake in Arizona as governor? And the answer was acquisitio, which was you will not gain. Now, that is such a tricky magic 8-ball kind of question, but still I called it for Lake. And as we know, it still hasn't. Hopefully, I was wrong by calling it for Lake, but it wasn't a strong one. There was enough vagueness in the answer that if Kari Lake goes down to defeat, then I'll understand the answer, you will not gain. The next one, will Fetterman conquer Oz? And the answer was Amicio, you will conquer all enemies. I called it for Fetterman. Not only that, but I looked at how the other figures were projected on a zodiacal wheel, or in this case, a square for the house of health, and it was very fortunate as far as health goes. So I added on to that. Not only will he win, but he'll have a good recovery from his stroke. Someone wrote and asked, will Laura Kelly win in Kansas? And the answer was acquisitio. Adversary is feeble, desires to settle, if that was a court case anyway. So I called it for Laura Kelly, and I was right. Will Tina Kotek be elected governor of Oregon, which was somebody called in that one. And it was a missio as the judge, and the answer, traditional answer, was success by being genteel. So I called it for Tina Kotek, and that was a question sent by Marilyn Mix. Okay. Will Greg Abbott lose the election for Texas governor? Now, I asked this question, wording it 3 times, and all of them were Zen-like vague. But when I worded it, will Greg Abbott lose the election for Texas governor, it came up via, with a simple one-word answer, victory. So I finally ended up interpreting that as, no, he won't lose, he'll be victorious. And that's the way it turned out, too. Okay. So, I pronounce the false prophet Stonehenge Equinox a false prophet. And my wife agrees. In doing so, I've gotten my editor's copy editing material back on the soon-to-be book, An Accidental Christ, from the publisher, my good friends at Llewellyn. And it necessitated me going back and making sure I've got biblical quotes correct and things like that. And in doing so, I ran across something a souvenir, if you will. And to explain that souvenir, I'm going to read something to you from chapter 5 from My Life, the Spirits. Lonnie, do you believe in Jesus? Reverend Alan Kastner squeezed the new black Bible in both hands like it was an overstuffed sandwich. That Bible was mine. I earned it. I squirmed through 2 tedious years of Sunday school and survived the most obscene and evil form of legalized child abuse ever devised. Vacation Bible School. I passed their examinations. I got up before dawn every Sunday to sing in the children's choir at early service. On Saturday mornings, while my friends were playing Army or watching Sky King on TV, I sat alone in the musty, haunted 100-year-old chapel and mindlessly folded the next day's bulletins and responsive readings. Did I believe in Jesus? Didn't I dress up like a cherub each Sunday and march down the aisle bearing the sacred flame? Didn't I start each 11 a.m. service by enkindling the massive candles on the altar that signified the living presence of God? And who was it that ended each service by solemnly extinguishing the candles with a long brass snuffer? Me. That's who. Did I believe in Jesus? Did I believe in Jesus? Hell no. I didn't believe in Jesus, but I earned that goddamn Bible. Now, standing before the altar of God, in front of my parents and the entire congregation, I was going to have to lie to get it. Yes, sir. I was 9 years old, and at last a full-fledged Christian. Reverend Allen looked like he was going to cry. He handed me my prize and put his hand on my shoulder and turned me toward the congregation. How old are you, Lonnie? 9. Do you say your prayers at night? Yes, sir. This was not a lie, for I prayed fervently every night, but not to Jesus, not to God. Each night, as I stared out of my window into the beautiful Nebraska sky, I tearfully prayed to space aliens or any superior intelligence in the universe who could hear my plea. Get me out of Nebraska. Take me back to California. Take me anywhere you can perform medical experiments on me. I don't care. Just get me out of here. Friends, this is our candle lighter, Lon DuQuette. You may not recognize him without his little white gown. Laughter. And his torch and snuffer. More laughter. Lonnie also sings in the carol choir and comes in on Saturdays to fold our bulletins. We're all sure he's going to grow to be a man of God. He then gently pushed me back toward my pew with a hearty, God bless you, Lonnie. And this is that Bible. And I, with my little wood-burning set, I put my name on it. And I've been using it ever since. Anyway, that's Saturday morning cartoons. It should have been Sunday school, but God knows I didn't want to be blasphemous. Anyway, I'd like to thank Stonehenge Equinox for being a false prophet. He later on, he'll be stoned. Until Sunday school, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.